And I'm going to hand it over to Juliet, who is going to moderate our panel tonight. So thank you, Juliet.
Thank you, Eliza. Again, we are so grateful to have this panel of young people ranging from elementary school students to graduate students here with us this evening. So thank you all so much for being here. My name is Juliet Biaggi. I will be our moderator this evening. I am a white woman with light brown hair. I'm wearing dark glasses and a plaid shirt, and I have a bright colored painting behind me. Let's see, the student panelists will be introducing themselves in just a moment, but I wanted to invite everyone to share in the chat your name, where you're from, and maybe something that you hope to get out of this session this evening. So again, in the chat, if you're up for sharing your name, where you're from, and a hope that you have, we would love to see those. Give you a minute to do that. And while we are introducing ourselves in the chat, I want to thank my co-chairs, Eliza, Elisa, Carissa, Indra, Vanessa, Cassie, and Joanna for all of their work putting together these Crafting Change sessions. So thank you. All right, so Eliza, if you wouldn't mind starting the slideshow, I want to share that our agenda this evening is going to be composed of 3 parts. We'll start with welcome and introductions, and then we'll move into our panel discussion with the student panelists, and we will conclude with time for you all to ask questions of the panelists yourselves. So that is what we are up to. And again, to our student panelists, thank you so much for coming tonight to share about your experiences of school at this time. I know that you bring a variety of perspectives, from how you're managing virtual learning to change that you're creating in your school communities. I know you have a lot going on. And from the movement for Black lives to the coronavirus pandemic to the election, we as educators have a lot on our minds. And we are really grateful that you're here with us to share your thoughts and your experiences on how you're navigating school in these unprecedented times. So thank you. So Eliza, if we could do the next slide, we're going to start with panelist introductions. If you can please share your name, a verbal description, pronouns if you'd like, and then your grade, school, and city. And Aaliyah, I'm wondering, I think you are our youngest panelist, if you would like to start us off, and then anyone can jump in after that.
Hi, my name is Aaliyah Ampansa. I am wearing a light blue shirt with white flowers on it, and I have a couple paintings behind me. I'm in 4th grade, and I go to Philadelphia Performing Arts Charter School, and I live in Philadelphia.
How about Kalia?
Yeah, I was gonna say I can go next. My name is Kalia Yazar. I'm wearing kind of a black off the shoulder shirt. I have 4C, 4B hair, and a puff. And I'm just in my room with some paintings in the background. And I go by she, her, hers. I'm in the 10th grade, I'm a sophomore, and I go to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Early College in Denver, Colorado.
Thank you, Kalia. How about Donnie next?
Hi, my name is Donnie Austin. I am in my room. I got a picture of me and my father in the background. I'm wearing a black shirt with my volleyball team on it. I go by she, her, hers. My grade, I'm in 10th grade and sophomore. I go to school at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Early College in Denver, Colorado.
Thank you, Donnie. How about Eric next?
Hi, my name is Eric Josue Ventura. ooh, a verbal description. Sorry. I'm wearing a white shirt, a white Calvin Klein shirt with a rosary chain and a gold chain, 2 earrings. I have dark brown hair, straight dark brown hair. I'm in my mother's room. This is her closet, beautiful closet. And my pronouns are he, his, him, he, him, his. I'm in 12th grade. I'm a senior at Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Eric. How about Braylee next?
Okay, I had to unmute myself. Hi, my name is Braylee. Description, I'm sitting in front of a window wearing a crocheted sweater thing. I have brown hair with some blonde highlights and glasses, and I'm also wearing earrings. I am a senior in college, and I go to Loyola University in New Orleans, but I'm doing it virtually, so I'm currently in Gulfport, Mississippi.
Great. Thank you, Braylee. How about Christopher?
So my name's Christopher Lopez. I'm wearing a kind of a maroon gray sweater, and I'm also a Hispanic male, and I would say my pronouns are he, him, and his. And I'm right now a junior at the Open School of Engineering at Marquette University. And right now I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Thank you. Will.
Hi, my name is Will Paisley. I'm a light-skinned Native American male presenting person, and I'm wearing a camo flannel, black t-shirt, earrings. I have a drum of a buffalo in my background along with some other art, and I am currently, I use he and they pronouns. I am currently a master's student in the Policy Organization Leadership Studies program at the Stanford Graduate School of Education, and I'm currently residing in Menlo Park, California, right next to Stanford.
Thank you, Will. And Vivian.
Hi, my name is Vivian Weissman. I am wearing a striped shirt. I have long brown hair. I'm sitting in my room right now, and I have 2 windows behind me. One of them has an air conditioner in it. I identify as female. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm in 9th grade. I go to the Institute for Collaborative Education, and I live in New York City.
Thank you, Vivian. All right, did I miss anyone? All right, thank you. Elisa, if we can go to the next slide. So panelists, our first question for you is, what does school look like for you right now? If you could briefly share, are you learning in person? Are you learning remotely, some hybrid model? Anyone who wants to jump in, please go ahead. What does school look like for you right now?
School for me is totally remote. My school does have the option, if you want to go in hybrid, so you can go in some days to actually be in school and some days at home. But I chose to be all remote just because I have an hour-long commute on the subway to get to school, so it's pretty hard and not that safe. And I have like 3 live classes a day, and then the rest of the work I do independently by myself.
Anyone else can just jump in.
I can go. So for the past quarter at DMLK, we've been completely remote, and they brought up the option to come back. I believe it was supposed to be around 3 days ago, but they've been extending it because of certain things, so it might be back to November. But so far I've just been learning remote, and I've had 5 classes a day, and kind of similar, I guess, similar to some other people. We have asynchronous work time. We can just do our work from home, and yeah, I haven't really been doing much besides, learning here from us.
At my school, we are also fully remote, and they also extended it to not go back to school right away because of everything that's going on. And right now, I kind of like remote. I feel like it's easier to get work done, especially since I get to work from home. So yeah, I think I'm gonna stay remote.
I can go next. School right now is remote for DC public schools, which Duke Ellington is a DC public school. They're talking about opening up for hybrid learning in like the end of January. There's just talks going around in the Board of Education in DC, but I don't know how that will work because what like Vivian said, I have like a 1 hour commute for DC Metro to go to school. So that's going to be very difficult for me. Honestly, I'm taking like 8 classes, I believe, 2 AP and then like 4 arts. I'm a theater major, and it's something. I mean, remote learning is something. It's better than nothing. But honestly, if you ask me what I learned in math in the first month of my school, I would not be able to tell you. I'm not learning as much. I'm not. I don't want to. Yeah, learning. I'm not able to grasp a lot of these topics that we're doing during virtual learning. I learn more better in person because of the fact that I'm able to jump off my ideas or listen to other people's ideas right then and there. I don't have to, go through this robotic screen. So yeah.
Go ahead.
At my school, we are fully virtual. I have 3 classes a day, and I usually end school at 1 o'clock, but I would much rather be in person with all my friends.
Well, I could go next. So we actually have a Marquette. We have a kind of a 3 mix. So we have all of them, honestly. So we have a hybrid. We have remote, and then we have also we have in person. But for the College of Engineering, they did a policy where none of the engineering students could take the remote option fully. So like for some of my classes, I actually have to design, I actually have to be there in person and doing labs. So I didn't really have the option to do fully remote. But like lots of our students from our universities also have the option to go remote. And something we do that also like as a little policy that we have to do is that we have to take a test for COVID symptoms. They also gave us like a little kit when we got back so we could like take care of like our temperature. And then they did a policy where we still have the policy where you can't miss 7 days of classes. But a lot of my teachers are very lenient. So like something they would do is that they would say if you're sick, it won't count as an absence, just attend in person. We'll set up a camera and everything. So you could just do it so you could do it in your dormitory or your apartment. And also since upperclassmen, we also have another policy where it's upperclassmen usually, unless you're an RA, you would usually go to an apartment on campus or off campus. So like right now I'm an off campus, but something that's been kind of a problem is that a lot of the underclassmen, they get very excited about the new experience of being away from parents. And so we had first month, we had a spike in cases. So we had to close down a whole entire campus for a whole entire dormitory for 2 weeks. And then like a week later, we had to close down another dormitory with a full shutdown. So that was kind of interesting. And then there's kind of murmurs right now that the biggest dormitory, it might lead to a shutdown, which could lead to fully remote learning. So that might be a handful for everyone.
So at Stanford, we started, so I'm a co-terminal master's student. So I finished my Stanford undergrad in spring of this year, and then I started my master's a month ago. We've been remote since March, and we're fully remote now. The only way you can do not work is if you work in a lab or something. So like for STEM graduate students, but there's no undergrads allowed on campus unless for like special circumstances where they need to be living on campus. It works well. It's just a very different environment. I think spring was a very big testing ground, especially because we were able to switch from our winter quarter to just spring quarter virtual and have that as a test. And now we're committed to doing fully remote mostly throughout this entire year. That plan isn't changing it anytime soon. I'm also one of the co-chairs of the Stanford Graduate Student Council, so I meet with admin a lot, the administrators, to discuss our plans. And basically, the kind of trend is we just have to work with what's happening right now. But I will say, as an education student, I've still been able to make meaningful connections with my cohort, with my peers in classes, having like actually really riveting discussions. But I will say it is exhausting to be sitting at your computer for 7 hours a day of Zoom.
All right, I'll go. So according to my advisor, I was one of the first people like to make the decision to go fully online. I decided over the summer, like in May, that I wanted to be fully online. So Loyola's in New Orleans. I live on the coast of Mississippi. It's only an hour and a half away. I decided if I ever needed to be over there, I could just drive over there. But I made that decision for a few reasons. My brother has muscular dystrophy, so I was worried about, bringing things back and forth. Yeah, and my mom and my dad both have like pre-existing conditions, so I was also worried about that. But yeah, so that's why I made the decision to do virtual. It's really difficult. I'm a senior in college. I'm a public relations major, but I'm pretty much finished with my major and my history minor. So now I'm just kind of doing electives and maybe like 2 communications classes. So I've had 6 classes. I just finished up with one of them, so now I only have 5. But on top of that, I also work. So I feel like I haven't really gotten a break, like from going home in March and having to pack up everything and leave. I got a job as soon as I was done with school because I didn't have an option to not be employed. So I worked all summer. My whole family worked because we didn't really have any other option. And then school started back up again, and then I got a different job. And thankfully, this one is only like 3 times a week, and it's a lot of sitting compared to the other job I was doing. So if I want to do my schoolwork while I'm at work, I can, which is really nice and really helps. But it's definitely difficult. I don't like virtual learning. I mean, I know I'm the one that made the decision, but realistically, I can't afford to go back unless I was going to be an RA again. And I did not want to have to babysit people during this time. So that was my biggest factor, was like money, and the reason I didn't go back, because my school increased tuition even though we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I had to deal with that. So that was a big like factor in me staying here. But yeah, it's hard. It's difficult. I don't like virtual learning. I feel like I'm getting my work done. I'm getting good grades, but I don't feel like I'm retaining anything. Kind of like what Eric was saying, like I don't really feel like I'm learning. And I hate that this is how I'm spending my senior year. But that's all.
Thank you. Elisa, if we can do the next slide. So there have been some comments on pros and cons for sure. We'd like to hear from those of you who want to share some of the pluses, some of the upsides. What is working well for you? What have you been able to do during this time? What are teachers doing maybe that's working well for you? What are some of the things that are going well for you?
I could go first. So, related to school-wise, what's going well for me is I've been able to take all college classes this year. So it's a little hard, but I have been able to maintain over a 4.0 GPA. So I think that's going really well. I have also been part of this No Justice, No Peace podcast team. Our podcast is basically just explaining relevant and past events related to Black history, and interviewing like males and females on different topics. We basically are just bringing awareness about issues concerning African Americans, such as racism, inequality, racial discrimination, trauma, division, segregation, and social injustice issues. The podcast is really just a way for us to get our voices out as students, and that's what I've been working on. I've also been working on partnering with the Denver Public Schools District, which is CRE teams, culturally responsive education team, and the CRI team, which is culturally responsive instruction team, to implement Black history, Latino history, Asian history, Indigenous history, and students of color history. And recently we have just wrote a resolution for the Denver Public Schools Board, which will be voted on the 22nd. So, and we have also been interviewed by multiple media outlets, which I have been working on with my other podcast members. But I feel like really that's what is working well for me right now, just because it's opening a lot of doors, college and stuff like that.
I'm also on the podcast, and yeah, like Diane says, we've been doing a lot of stuff right now. Like recently, we actually met with some of the writers, Dr. Milton and Dr. Freeman, who actually wrote an entire Black History textbook, and we're working on getting that implemented into our schools and the district for all of the changes we're making. And yeah, like some of the media sources we've been interviewed by CNN, Fox, CBS, like a lot of major publications, and it's kind of unreal. And we've also, I don't know if we're able to like go into too much detail, but with the people with the Black History book, we're actually in the process of beginning to write our own book describing kind of our journey so far as like a BSA. Oh, also we're two of the founding members of the BSA at our school, our Black Student Alliance. And yeah, being a part of the podcast and the BSA has been working good for me because like for me right now, school isn't going too hard because I've also been able to take multiple college classes and I've maintained a 4.3 GPA. And I feel like right now with school, I feel like it's kind of hard to lose track of how everything's going and just throw yourself into your work and kind of ignore everything around you. So like being around the podcast girls and everything we're doing really gives me a fresh breath of air and like just know that I don't really have to revolve my entire world around education. And besides, obviously being anxious about the virus and worrying about, things like the election and things coming up, it's just good to know I have different outlets to go to and not really just delve myself into one thing and forget about everything else.
I can go next. In school, I think that my teachers are doing just a wonderful job of really getting us adjusted to this online learning and just really helping us individually through everything. For me, online learning, I mean, it's not ideal, but I like being able to do my work at my own pace and being able to do stuff ahead of time and being able to spread one thing out over this many days. And it does work well for me. Obviously, I would rather be in school, but that's not really an option right now. But outside of school, I'm actually able to I do a lot of dancing and singing and acting, and I'm able to do all of that online. So I did this completely over Zoom acting play. I did it completely over Zoom, and then we recorded it. And that was really, really cool. And I'm able to do like multiple dance classes a week over Zoom. So although I would just like life to get back to normal, it's going pretty good for me. Yeah.
I can go next. Well, for the little stuff that are going well, such as I'm able to finally, all of these things that were going on in the past 8 months actually humble you in some sort of type of way. So it just it made me realize what I have, what privileges I have. And so, with that, just humbles myself. And so like spiritually and mentally, that very, it really did help with stuff, but that's just a small thing. But honestly, in school, because I live in DC, you can't really escape. A lot of people think of DC as like oh, that's where the White House is, oh, that's where Congress is, all that stuff, all that good stuff, which is cute. It is. I mean, I can pull up over there anytime I want, but the thing is, there's a whole group of people who live here, you know what I mean? And you can't really escape the politics, and you can't really escape what's going on with all that's going on in the world right now. So what DCPS, or at least my school, or some teachers have done for our curriculum, is talk about those certain topics. So talk about the topic of racism in our country. Let's talk about, how it is to live in DC, not even in the nation, but DC. What are the problems in DC? So having these conversations virtually have been very well, just to not only open eyes to a lot of my classmates, but to just have that conversation with each other is very important. And you know, teachers have done a very good job with that. Also, I'm able to have these conversations with like people who are like in California or in New York, because you know, if we were doing this in real life, you know, we can't really you know, talk with each other if we were in real life. So virtually it's been very good talking with other people. So like I know I have some people who live in New York who are helping our school, you know, so virtually has been very good. So yeah.
I could go next. Sorry about that. So I would probably say that my involvement with my community, ironically, like you would think that, like even though like because a lot of students aren't like, so I would probably say like one half of Marquette isn't at Marquette right now. But I would probably say a big benefit is I've been able to actually be more connected and more involved with my community, especially like the Milwaukee community. I feel like personally because I've been getting more involved in like influencing more people to vote and exercise their opinion to vote and their opinions. And also because I've also been involved in trying to diversify Marquette as a whole, especially in like the student body, because like most of their student body is comprised of like, it's not very diverse, so we don't really get too much perspective, but I've been able to get involved with that and trying to diversify and try and get more opinions and more perspectives on topics that are like that are very crucial to Marquette. And I'll probably say that another thing is, like I mentioned, that clubs, I've been able to like, previously I was involved like probably in 3 clubs, and like now I'm probably involved in like 8 clubs, because like I don't have to deal with so much with the transition. Like for some people it might not seem like so much, but like for me personally, like being able to like just be like back to back to back into another club, it's just helped me a lot, and like getting to know people and also getting more involved. So
I'd say for me, the biggest thing I think is time. When I look back on my undergrad experience, I would always make the joke that, oh, my Google Calendar looks like a rainbow because there's so many things on it. And I'd just be running around. I would, on average, walk 8 miles a day, which I miss doing that. But now I can do that on my own time. For the first time in 5 years, I actually am able to get 9 hours of sleep a night, which I never could have imagined as an undergrad. Once I'm done with my work, it's done. I like watch my shows. I live with housemates who are also all my age, who are also pursuing their masters at Stanford. So I have a sense of community around me, which is a big change. For spring quarter, I lived on my family's remote 50-acre property in Western Washington, literally in the middle of the woods, which was a very big change from the Bay Area. So I'd say for me, what's working best is a new level of autonomy that I didn't have, but it's still not as fulfilling, I would say, as being on campus. It is odd, like being here where I am and I'm like a 5-minute drive from campus, but I'm technically not allowed to go there due to like Stanford's policies.
A few things that have been going well for me are that I've been able to attend my ballet classes in person, and I recently started making clothes for my dolls, and I've been able to play with my friends in my neighborhood and spend more time with my little brother.
Okay. I know I feel like I said a lot of negative stuff when I talked, but a few good things is, so my girlfriend is in nursing school. So being like an hour and a half away from each other and them being in nursing school, me like pursuing my degree, it was really difficult to find time for each other. Like thankfully we FaceTimed every night and everything, but it's a lot better being able to hang out with your person in person. So this was the first year that we were able to celebrate their birthday together and not have to do it before or afterwards. So that was really nice. It's really good. As much as my family gets on my nerves sometimes, it's good to be able to spend time with them, and how my mom's cooking is something that you really miss when you're away and you don't realize it until you're gone. So I'm really close with my parents. Like I've always been really close with them and had a really open relationship with them. So it's been nice to be able to spend that time with my family, with my brother, with my parents. So that's been nice. And I've been able to work, and I can still do internships remotely. Like I worked at a restaurant over the summer and I did like a remote social media internship at the same time. So it's nice in a way that you're able to do like remote internships. So.
Thank you all for sharing about these things that are going well. Yes, Eric, please.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I forgot about something. So what DCPS is doing to help students be able to catch up with all their work is that we have a class and then we have like a 40-minute asynchronous period. We have classes for Monday, Tuesday, and we don't have class on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that one day that we don't have class helps us catch up to a lot of work, and it's more like used for an advisory period. So if teachers need to reach out to you or you need to reach out to a teacher, that that advisory period on Wednesday is very, very, very helpful. And teachers, a lot of what my teachers at least are doing are reaching out to their students. So if a student isn't like turning in their work, because as we all know, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in people's lives, they reach out to you. So for example, I know many teachers have reached out to me for my last year, like junior year, which we started the quarantine, to just ask what's going on. And just knowing that your teacher, your teacher is there, to ask you if you need any help. It's good because, you feel that you're cared for, although you were not able to see my teachers and, you're not able to pull up to their classroom, at least, they can send like, virtual help. So that's very helpful.
So good. Thank you for adding that, Eric. That's great. All right, so we're going to move into then the flip side, and we'd love to hear sort of what's not working, what's been particularly challenging during this time.
I think I can start on this one. I feel like one really big thing that me and my peers are complaining about, like when we first went to quarantine last school year and even this year, is like teachers are starting to feel like they have to put out more work. Like, for example, I know we have schoolwork every day and then pre-work every day, sometimes multiple assignments. And like, they didn't have this energy last year when they were like, I remember some classes I would have like one assignment for an entire week and then that was it. But like, I don't know if they have certain guidelines. I'm pretty sure some of them probably do, but I feel like it's a lot to ask, because I know a lot of peers of mine, like they have active working jobs. Like I know like some of the podcast girls, they're like starting to do a bunch of other stuff, like applying for scholarships and like learning how to drive. And it's just, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. So I feel like it's not really necessary to make school one of the stressors, especially when like for a lot of people that isn't really their main concern, like staying safe, making sure they pass school. Like it shouldn't really be a big issue for students to have to worry like, who do I have an assignment to turn in, or am I going to have, a bunch of missing work by the end of the week. So I feel like that's one thing that probably needs to change soon, is just like not feeling that like you have to push out work every other day just to keep students busy, because most of us are already busy.
I could go next. Something I would say that did not work at all was like, I was hearing a lot of the panelists talking about how much they really want to go back to school. But like, I think personally for me in college, like not even having the option to like go remote, I feel like one of the bad things was that there was such a huge spike in COVID cases. That was kind of like very eye opening. Like, not like I didn't believe the case or anything, but just like shows you how quickly how quickly it can spread out to a community. Kind of makes you kind of a little cautious about even like going to school, because like you have to worry about your own health. Then like you also, because my mom's diabetic, and I have that concern of also like when I go back, maybe I could give it to her. And like I know that's a very vulnerable community. I'll probably say also something else, like even though like I say like about I'm kind of like attacking about like the idea of like being in person, but something else is that for my more asynchronous like non in-person classes, the teachers and you feel very disconnected. And there's sometimes I personally feel with some of my teachers, they're very inconsistent with their emailing. So like, for example, like I would email a teacher like one day, like probably like 2 days, and it would take them probably like 3 days plus to like actually answer my question. So I feel like there's that kind of disconnect also. But like I understand like the balance and how difficult it is, especially in such a situation, such a circumstance, where it's like we've never been through this before. So this is like something totally new for everyone. And but it's like I would probably say still I'm very, very thankful for the opportunities I've gotten for my school and my community, especially. So yeah.
I'll go next. So I have to agree with Kalia. Teachers are giving out way more work. Like I have assignments. A teacher will give out 3 assignments a day in some classes and be like, oh, this is due by class tomorrow. Please get this done. And some teachers be having me up to 3 a.m. working on assignments just to turn it in the next day. And they're like, this is a big part of your grade. This is 50% of part of your grade. So you need to get this done by tomorrow, even if you have to stay up late and work all night on it. And I think it's really just not realizing that we have other classes we need to focus on too. So it's kind of hard just balancing all the classes. Another thing that is a little challenging for me is I have a little brother. So when I go over there to help him with his work, I'm also in class trying to get my work done along with helping him. And he's very distracted since he's little. So I think it's just hard trying to do both and try to like keep your siblings interested in what they're doing and try to get them to learn and pay attention to their classes virtually, while also you're trying to pay attention to your classes virtually so you know what's going on.
Mine's a little more existential. I think my conception of time has kind of left my head in terms of time doesn't really pass in the same way anymore. Just sitting at your screen the whole time, like doing the same thing every day, being like, oh my God, I have class at 10:30. I'm logging right at 10:31 and then it's done. In terms of when I look back on like my previous college experience, it was always bookmarked by different events, by different like things that I was looking forward to, by community events. Like especially for me, I was very involved in the Native American community and then in some residential life. And that's really like what made the informal learning environment of Stanford itself is what gave me a lot of value in it. And now it's basically like half of the experience is just not there. So like I can log into a Zoom webinar and watch someone talk about something. I can do this event, like, but nothing can replicate the actual kind of grandeur of having a physical community to gather with, things to look forward to. You know, you could be like, I'm really wanting to go to this webinar on Thursday at 7 p.m. But then through 4 hours of Zoom, and you're like, do I really want to sit down and like watch now? Yeah. So it's like to some, it's basically, it's just hard to find motivation with the lack of physical manifestation. Oh my God, I made a rhyme. Cool, great.
Well, what hasn't been working? Well, so during the pandemic and just school in general and just with everything, it's just been very difficult. I know for, so when March hit, we went into quarantine in DC, and all schools went out like exactly like I remember my last day. You know, I dressed up thinking that we will be coming back in 2 weeks, you know, oh, everything in 2 weeks, but then, you know, 8 months. So so with those you know, times, I know my junior year my GPA dropped. You know, it didn't drop too much, but you know, it still dropped. And to me, I'm a perfectionist, so I really love when my stuff is going up, not down. So I was a 3.8 and then it went down to like a 3.7, although that is still good, you know, because I still am on my stuff and I communicate with my teachers a lot. That still was very difficult for me. Also just, you know, just trying to adapt to everything. I couldn't see my friends. I'm a very much an extrovert. So, you know, I couldn't see my friends as much anymore, and that really like took a mental toll on me, because my friends are the ones who help me go through, you know, with work or whatever I'm going through at home. You know, we as humans need, you know, we're not, you know, born to just speak on a screen. You know, we're born to like speak with each other in face to face. And you know, you tell who somebody is by their breath and by, you know, the way their body moves and all of that. So that's very difficult for me. And you know, in the summer it's been hard because a lot of the topic of police brutality and Black Lives Matter has came up in the media, though it has been going on for much more time than that. And in DC, we've been talking about this for a long time, so it's just been going on media. But we've been talking about this, and because DC has been you know, one of the cities that, you know, has been very loud and, you know, strong about, you know, their feelings for Black Lives Matter. You know, the whole Black Lives Matter plaza went up, and a lot of people from other states came to see the mural. But us in like high school have been taking we've been, well, I'm just gonna speak for myself. I've been scared because, you know, I have many friends who are Black, and you know, it's just scary to know that, you know, one day they might be here and one day they might not. And DC already has like a huge homicide rate already. We already had like about 200 homicides even during quarantine. So murder. And so, you know, it's scary because, you know, I don't live in Georgetown. You know, I live which will be called, you know, one of the neighborhoods. But you know, it's scary because, you know, you might one day you might just go outside and, you know, you might just be racially profiled, which which is scary because it happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I'm Latino. You know, my family are from El Salvador. So you know, they're immigrants, and you know, being with this whole corona and stuff, I had to help them because they're not English speakers. So, you know, I have to help them with voter registration. I have to help them with what's going on with Medicaid and all this insurance stuff. And I'm just a senior in high school, you know what I mean? I'm trying to focus on, you know, getting into college, which is already hard because I'm first generation high school graduate, and first generation, hopefully, college graduate. And so, you know, with all of this that's going on, I'm trying to focus on, you know, school. I'm trying to focus on helping my family. I'm trying to focus on, you know, not getting, you know, beat up or shot up when I go outside of my house. So, you know, it's very hard to just capture everything, because at a certain moment you just get numb to everything. At this point you really get numb to what's going on around you. And like, as I said, I was at like the clinic 2 weeks ago getting blood drawn, and someone told me, you know, to make a long story short, someone told me to go back to my country to learn some English, you know, some stuff that will get you punched in the face, for real, you know. But you know, because of what's going on, I was so numb that I just did not, it just didn't click in my mind until like 10 minutes after that. I'm just like, is that really what she said? Like, you know, I'm like, what? But anyways, but yeah, that's been the most challenging, just trying to, I'm sorry if I get nervous. I just, you know, I get nervous when I speak sometimes, so I'm just sorry if my voice trembles. But that's been very challenging, just to try to help, not only help others around you, but try to help yourself, because sometimes you forget to help yourself. So, you know, my mental state at first was really bad. I just never got into that kind of state of mind before, but now, because, you know, stuff are trying to starting to open up, I've been listening to music, and that's just been, you know, kind of helping me. So yeah.
I just like to add on really quickly to what Eric just said. I really couldn't agree more, because like with everything we've been doing with the podcast, we have gotten like a lot of defense. And honestly, like right now as Gen Z, like we are really pretty bold. And like at this point, it's like I don't really like, of course, like a natural kind of reaction of being a minority is kind of being scared of, you know, being hate crimes or being targeted. But at this point, like I'm so defensive of like everything that's going on in this country. I feel like honestly, like, you know, as a woman, as a Black woman, as a student activist, it feels like in any perspective, I'm always like prepared to face up. And so like, in all honesty, like right now I have so much going on that like I don't even think like, oh, what if I go outside and somebody calls the police, or what if I go outside and somebody gets, or somebody shoots me, and like it's just kind of hard to pull yourself out of that mindset where it's like I wish someone would, because that could happen. And it's just hard to, I guess, really acknowledge like who I am as a person, because I already know who I am as a person, especially as a minority. And it's just hard to like pull yourself out of that mindset where it's like you're so defensive all the time. And it's just hard to kind of break that wall down, especially after everything that's going on right now.
I totally agree. I also feel that I'm such an extroverted person. I thrive so much from social connections. And I find that when I really make those social connections, it's, you know, at lunchtime, when I'm eating lunch with my peers, or when I'm walking through the hallways, you know, going to my class. And I find that over Zoom, you can't really do that because it's just you're there for a lesson and then you're kind of just on your own for the rest of the day. Also, my brother went to college this year, and he's going to Columbia, so it's kind of close to my house. But now when I see him, I'm seeing him from like 6 feet away, and it's really sad because, you know, it's already hard enough to have somebody leave your house and go to college, but then to not even be able to hug them, it's just makes it 10 times harder. And I also agree with Will that you have like suddenly you have all the time in the world, but with that time, you like it feels like you don't have any motivation to do anything because it just kind of feels like you have endless amounts of time. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll go. I don't know. It's challenging when teachers have a lack of empathy and sympathy. Like other students have said, we have so much stuff going on in our own lives right now. Just like, I mean, I have work, I worry about my family, I worry about my job, I worry about finances. I have a Hispanic foster brother who lives in California and he's all the way across, you know, the country. I worry about him and like if anything's going to happen to him. So there's all these things that I'm constantly worried about and have more focus on that sometimes school just feels like an afterthought. And like I hate that I feel that way because I'm also a first generation student. I put so much pressure on myself to like go to college and to graduate and be the first in my family. So like when I feel that I'm not giving school like my full attention, I feel like, I don't know, I get really hard on myself. So that's definitely been a big thing, is I wish teachers would understand that I know school is supposed to be important to us and everything, but school is really hard to focus on when there's so many other things going on in everybody's life and in the world right now, that sometimes doing 15 different assignments is not the number one thing on my mind and my number one priority. Another thing, like other people said, I'm a queer woman living in Mississippi. So I constantly see all the Trump supporters, all the Trump signs. They just had a Trump rally for good old Amy. So that's something that's hard to deal with, is seeing that all the time. And like I said, I worked in a restaurant over the summer with COVID going on. And just living in Mississippi when you have a completely different mindset of a lot of the other people that live here is difficult to go through, especially going from New Orleans, which is typically like a very accepting place where I feel like I can completely be myself, down to Mississippi has just been kind of difficult when you get so used to having freedom somewhere else and you come somewhere where you can't necessarily always be yourself. So that's been really hard. And I don't know if other people can relate, but a lot of people have gained weight in quarantine. I know when I went to college, I didn't gain freshman 15, I gained freshman 20. And I was really hard on myself. I still am. Since coming home, I've gained 10 extra pounds. It's like worrying about everything going on in the world, worrying about my own life, then worrying about like my self-image and my mental health. It just really feels like school is an afterthought because I'm so worried about so many other things. And I wish teachers and educators and even other students would realize that everyone is going through a hard time right now. So, and I wish they would kind of, like, teachers would, if they feel like a student is going through a hard time, be open to listening to what they can do to make it better for them. So that's my.
Thank you. Aaliyah, would you like to share what's been challenging during this time?
Some things that have been challenging is I'm really used to being in class with my friends and helping them, and then helping me with what we don't understand and what we do understand. And on virtual, we can't do that, and we don't have that. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right, Aliza, if we can do the next slide. I think we're gonna actually have this be the last formal question that we have panelists answer before we open it up to other questions. So this question is, what do you hope schools and or the field of education will learn from this time? And again, thinking back to some of the things that you've touched on, obviously the pandemic, kind of the state of our country right now, focus on racial justice, all of those things in mind and your own experiences. What do you want schools to take away from this time? What do you want schools to learn?
Well, I could go first. Something I wish schools would learn. Like I say again, I'm very thankful for my school and everything that they give me. Especially one thing that I really, really love that my school did, that just is in solidarity with the community of, like, in the pandemic, is that they made this rule for like 1 year that all freshmen that accepted on May 1st of last year, that they would all resume their acceptance, and they wouldn't get any of their financial aid removed from them due to pandemic. They also said that for this year, they wouldn't raise the tuition, and concerns and solidarity with the community, that they don't that they understand the economic impact that might have on many. But something that I feel that schools should really learn about this is that they shouldn't really underestimate the effects that COVID-19 has had, because it kind of feels, even though like my school's done all this, kind of feels at the same time that they kind of wanted most of us to return to school, not necessarily because they thought it would be a better environment for us, but more because of economics. Because my school is like a 15,000 student body, so like removing that huge income of like residential halls, all these types of, like, then you would have to also lay off a lot of the Milwaukee community, because like you wouldn't have the chefs, you wouldn't have all these different people. Kind of felt like more like at the very beginning, still to this point now, but it kind of feels like it was kind of a money grab, because it just felt too much like it kind of felt like they weren't too concerned about our health, even though they knew that cases were going to rise and all this. So I would probably say that would be something that I would want the field of education to learn from. Is that not to underestimate the validity of the statements that the scientists have given out, of or like especially precautions that they've given out.
Other thoughts on what you hope schools will learn from this time?
I feel like, especially with everything going on, I feel like one thing that everybody can learn, especially schools, is that time is really important, and it's important to take any roles, especially leadership roles you have, very seriously, and just make sure that you're not really being around the bush or cutting things out at your own expense. So I feel like it's so important, especially with how this pandemic has been handled so far on a national, even within our own district. It kind of shows how people have been kind of procrastinating, especially within certain roles. And, you know, there have been plenty of losses within my own community because of COVID, and within the state of Denver alone, which is a very popular city. It kind of shows how the people in charge, especially with our president, you can't wait until it gets too bad to actually do something. Because I know, like, for example, I'm grateful that the people in charge of if I went to school or not thought, especially at a big school like mine, hey, maybe the kids will get sick, or maybe there will be after effects if we send them back to school, even though it's been warned against. And I feel like it's just really important right now for people in position of power, especially within schools, to take their position seriously and not just think about what their superiors think or not, what about on a national level. People think what they know is right for their students, and in concerns for health and safety, and really just making sure that they're not just looking out for themselves.
I would like to go real quick. I know that within the last question, a lot of people have said this already, but I hope that schools will learn that there is a lot of other things that are going on with outside of school that we have to deal with along with on top of school, especially sitting at the computer all day, trying to help other siblings or other stuff like that, or students who are trying to focus on family, help out their family while also trying to learn what's going on. But I know that there teachers where we're from in the DPS district, a lot of teachers from my school are trying to grab a whole semester's worth of education and fit it into one quarter. So they're piling all this work on top of us. And I just really hope that they would understand that there's a lot of students who are going through stuff, and we can't really be there for all the work. So I just hope that they learn that.
I would say one thing that schools or like education, the field of education will learn from all of this that's going on is three things really. One, just being able to get creative with your, with the work that you do put out. So I don't know how it is for other cities, but like, at least I know some teachers in my school have gotten creative with the work that they put out in with their certain curriculum. So I know, instead of doing your regular, read this passage, answer these questions, regurgitate what I just taught you, and put it on a test for next week, instead of doing that, tell us, I know one of my teachers for history did a project of take 5 pictures of, and gave us a prompt about take 5 pictures and, explain how each picture, one, makes you feel about what's going on with the pandemic. 2, what are your hopes and dreams for next year? How are you feeling at this current moment? So, having us as students, be creative, and, just have another outlet, not making it seem like, oh, this is just like standard school, like boring, blah, blah, blah. All of that is cute and all, and I understand that some teachers have to follow those curriculums, but sometimes it just makes me not want to do work anymore. The second thing is for teachers not to be afraid to advocate for their students and their classes, and just don't be afraid to reach out to your students. It's just, just a simple email or a simple text, knowing that you're there is very helpful for a student, to know that you really care, because if I don't, my parents and everyone else in this household are going through stuff, the one thing that I really do need is somebody to know, to make me feel, sure that someone's there for me. And I don't know if there's any arts teachers, but like for the arts wise, I know I'm in theater, so, I just think having to be able to, how do you say it? Be having other resources instead of you is very helpful, because I know for acting through virtual, learning is very difficult, because when you're an actor, traditionally you're supposed to do it in front of people, right? You see how a person's emotion is or what they're going through, by seeing them in person, their breath and their body. But due to this virtual space, you're not able to do that. And so I know a lot of people in my school are reaching out to alumni or just professors from around the city. I know Howard University works very well with my school, so I know just having other resources instead of our own teachers in the arts is very helpful. So, you know, working with theaters or galleries around your city is very helpful to a lot of art students in the education field. So yeah.
I totally agree that like arts are usually a part of our daily lives and like exercise and moving around. And I really hope that schools can really incorporate that into our curriculum and into our schedule and kind of help us move our brains in ways that are other than just reading a textbook and writing down some notes. And really, every kid is going through something different, and really being able to relate these current times into our studies, because I feel like that's really important to learn about right now, rather than stuff that we might not be using, but really what's happening right now in the world and current events and into our curriculum.
Thank you. So I want to make sure that we give the chance for the educators in the audience to ask you all some questions that they have. So if you are an attendee and you want to just turn your microphone off and ask a question, please feel free to do that. If you want to post a question in the chat, I can ask it on your behalf. So please feel free to jump in with questions.
Oh, Julia, I think Braley wanted to say something really fast before.
Oh, thank you. Braley, please.
Thank you, Will. Yeah, I was sitting here writing down stuff on my notebook. I am kind of going to be calling my school out, but I don't really care. So my big thing, like I said, Loyola increased tuition. That's ridiculous. I know a lot of you aren't from the South or anything, and you might not know what Loyola even is. But Loyola is a private Catholic school in New Orleans, and they have different locations. But every single college, Loyola College, is different. They all operate differently. But it's just been really annoying because a lot of students there are first generation. A lot of students there can only go there because of financial aid. It's a really expensive school because it is a private school, and it is in New Orleans, and it's in uptown New Orleans, which is a really good neighborhood. So all that carries into it. Over the years, Loyola has had a really hard time with their finances, but we just got a new president 2.5 years ago, and they finally got their finances up. Things were looking really good. We were doing well. And then, of course, everything with COVID happens. They have to start laying more people off. A lot of professors have to just retire even though they didn't want to. And raising tuition was not the right thing to do. A lot of other colleges didn't raise tuition. I cannot understand, for the life of me, why Loyola thought that was a good idea. A big thing I think educators and people who work at colleges and schools should understand is that bad financial planning on your part is not the fault of your students. Yeah, we made the choice to go to a school that costs a lot of money, but we were doing so we could better ourselves. It's not our fault that your bad financial planning ended up making the school in debt. Sorry, I'm having a hard time saying what I mean, but I think you'll understand what I'm saying. Another thing I wish educators, teachers, would understand is all of your students are different. Every student has different needs. So some students are going to need more from you than others. Some students can handle more of a workload than others. So definitely, I know it's kind of hard to get to know your students when it's virtual, but try your best to get to know your students for who they are and get to know them on an individual level. I know that's difficult. I know teachers are also having a really hard time right now. This is new to them. This is difficult for them. It's difficult for us. And the only way it can get better is if teachers and students work together. So communication is definitely key right now, even if communication is a little bit difficult because it's mostly virtual. I think that's my biggest thing. And like I said before, I just wish teachers would have more empathy and sympathy. You know, they went to school, they knew what it was like, kind of channel what it was like for you and think about what it may be like for students, and especially teachers that have kids. Think about how you would want your kids to be treated in schools and then treat your students that way. So that's my biggest thing, is that schools need to realize everybody's different. Bad financial planning is not the fault of your students. And yeah, oh, sorry, I said I was going to call school out. I'm calling school out. Another thing I really didn't like, I don't go to Loyola in person, but I went to visit some friends, safely of course, and I noticed that all the cop cars had been upgraded. So they increased our tuition, and what were they spending that money on? So that was extremely frustrating to see, especially with everything going on in America and in the world right now, that it kind of felt as a student that they raised the tuition, not for us, but for things like getting new cop cars, which weren't needed at all. So that was very frustrating. That's it. That's what I got.
Thank you, Braylee. And we do want to open it up for Q&A. I wanted to make sure that Aaliyah also had a chance to share kind of, Aaliyah, did you want to share what you hope teachers will learn from this before we open it up to questions?
Yeah, so last year at my school, I had a friend in my class, and her family didn't really have much money, and now people are losing their jobs and they're suffering. So I hope that my school will just help them.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Thank you. All right, so please feel free to ask a question to a particular student or students, or to the panel as a whole.
Hi, this is Noah. I'm wearing a blue shirt. I have dark hair, dark mustache, and silver glasses. I'm a white male. Go by he, him. Thank you, all the panelists, for sharing with us. Really, always important to hear from students. The most important thing. And that I guess is my question to anyone who wants to answer, is that some of you seem like you're really tuned into what your friends and your other students need and what you need. And how have you, besides I guess panels like this, how have you managed to, I guess, tell your teachers or your educators, and kind of how have you gotten them to be active with you, or to kind of pursue the same solutions or to issues that you as students want, like as opposed to it coming from the teacher, which happens a lot of time in school and classrooms? How have you found, and anyone on the panel really found, that switch to kind of you inspiring your teachers or educators? What have you been doing to make that happen, or how has that change been happening?
I think I can speak on that. I'm actually a member of the SGB at my school, the school governance board. So I'm basically a student representative. So like, if any of my peers come to me like complaining about something, like I can go to those meetings and like express my thoughts there, and I take that role very seriously. And also, once again, within the BSA, I feel like I'm repeating this a lot, but we really are kind of relaying the student message, especially Black students who feel like there could be changes made in our school. And those are two roles I also take very seriously. So just generally to wrap it up, I feel like I am in a way a representative for students kind of within my school, within those organizations.
Yeah, some things that I have done is, well, whenever I have a teacher, I just me, I always make sure that I communicate with them, whether it's through email or like, you know, being on, we use Microsoft Teams, but whether being on Teams for a little bit after class, you know, to speak with them with any concerns. That's what I do personally, but honestly, I think teachers in my school have done very well. At least some teachers have done very well. Like making do nows a check-in, and I love that. You know, and I don't know if does do nows here, but you know, having like a do now instead of it being like, oh, read this 3 sentences. What does Iago feel in this? You know, in this sonnet. You know, instead of doing that, saying, how are you doing today in this do now? A small little check-in with the student, which has been phenomenal. So yeah.
I know that in DPS, what we're doing is teachers will have a one-on-one time period. Like we have an advisory period, which is between our classes. And the teacher would be like, hey, can I speak to this person in this room? You would go to that room and ask you if you have any problems, if you're struggling with anything, or if she needs to talk to a teacher that you're having problems with, or if you're confused if with anything, and she will try to help you. So I know that is very helpful. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. On my end, so I'm the co-chair of the Graduate Student Council at Stanford. So we have counselors from every single graduate school. So the needs and like concerns of students filter up from them and their constituents. So every month I have meetings with, every other month I meet with the president of Stanford, and every month I meet with like the vice provost for like graduate education, student affairs. And it's basically a laundry list of concerns that are always updated. But it's basically just constant communication and a lot of feedback and a lot of filtering of other students into committees on things like COVID, reopening, COVID plans, social pods, just a lot. But I have an amazing team, so it's really enjoyable.
I feel that my teachers are very, very invested in us as students, and 3 times a week we have 35-minute meetings with teachers, and we just can go over our problems, like if we're having trouble at home, trouble with friends, trouble logging into Google Meet, like whatever we need to go over with them, we can go over that. And they're really, really great about solving it. If I email any one of my teachers, they usually get back to me within an hour. Like they're very, very good on communicating with us. And our advisors, they did this last year. I'm not sure if they're gonna continue to do it this year, but they would call us once a week when we were like not on school, and they would just talk to make sure that we're okay and stuff like that. And so I do really feel that my school has been very great about, you know, communicating with us and really making sure that we're good and that we're okay.
So my thing, thankfully, I went to a really good high school, or at least I think it was good, where teachers kind of talked with me like we were on the same level. And so I've always kind of had that relationship with my teachers. So I kind of went with that going into college. So like I talk to my teachers, I guess, the way they would talk to me. It's like I give them respect. I feel like they give me respect. And so like that's a really good thing to do. Like always talk to your students with like a level of respect. Don't ever demean them just because they're younger than you, just because they're under you. You know, they're there to learn from you. They're there to be close to you in some type of way. They're expecting you to help them in their life and with school. So that's something that's really helpful, is when teachers like treat students, kind of the little golden rule, when teachers treat students how they would want to be treated. Another thing, like getting in contact with teachers or with other students about things that we have in common or common goals, is sometimes you just have to be annoying. Like you just have to send those multiple emails all the time. Sometimes you have to go above people's heads. Like if it's something really important, you just kind of have to keep going for it, and then getting other people involved in what you're trying to do. So that's how I've done it, is definitely just kind of had to be annoying. And even though I knew I was being annoying, I ended up getting something out of it, ended up getting my needs met and any issues met. So definitely respecting your students and like listening to them and understanding them. And then like as a student, sometimes you just have to be annoying, even if you don't want to be, even if you feel like you're getting in the way or being an inconvenience. You know, your teachers are never going to know how you feel unless you tell them. So.
All right, any other thoughts from panelists? Any other questions from educators?
I have a question. First of all, I want to say how honored I feel to be in the presence of everybody here. Aaliyah, fantastic. You guys are just so brilliant, and I feel confident that if the world is in your hands, I feel good, no matter what happens on November election. But what I wanted to ask is, what are you all doing for, I mean, I'm hearing everybody is very active, and it just seems, because you guys are all so smart, and it seems like you have support, whether it's from home or from school. What you're doing to stay mentally healthy, or what you're noticing people who are not staying mentally healthy are not doing. That's just my curiosity, because all of you seem very powerful. And so it seems that internally you're motivated to be in touch with people, or you're part of groups. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Nancy. And Aaliyah, feel free to pass, but I don't think you got to share for the last question. If you want to start things, that's great, but feel free to pass too.
Every day I usually go outside and just play with my friends, so I'm not trapped in the house all day. So.
What I do is that I have like a certain group of friends that I know who are safe during this time, that I go over their house, and you know, we just work on college stuff, and you know, try to help each other out, especially during this time with all that's going on. It's hard to do college stuff, so you know, be able to collaborate with other people. And because I I just love theater and I love acting, I take my time to watch good shows. You know, sometimes reality TV is good, but you know, those good shows, a good show, a good movie really helps me liven up. Oh, and music, you know, just having, after this panel, I'm going to go with my mom and my sister to just drive around, you know, downtown DC and around DC, because like sometimes just taking the moment to just like go around where you live and just actually, you know, consciously see where you live, you know, it hypes me up. I love to put on music when I'm in the car and just, you know, chill out. That's like what I love to do. So
I can go. I am actually very lucky. I'm kind of quarantined with my best friend. Our family's being very safe, and so are we. So we're only seeing each other, and I'm able to, you know, have sleepovers with her. And it's really nice to be able to have like one friend that I can be able to see. And I'm also very, very lucky. I have a backyard, and I can have some friends over to my backyard and see them socially distanced. I usually FaceTime my friends for like 3 hours every day. And I'm also really lucky. I have a big support system at home. You know, my parents are very supportive, and so is my brother. I'm able to FaceTime him every day, even though he just went to college. So I do feel very lucky, and like I do have a big bubble of people that I can really give me support, and they really, yeah.
Can I go? So you would be very right in guessing that like I'm part of a group. I've been a part of groups in college. I was always part of different groups in high school. But last year was my junior year, and I finally decided to do the whole recruitment Greek life process. I had a lot of preconceived notions because I am from the South, so I'm so used to seeing all those huge Southern state schools where every girl looks the same, everything is very expensive. You know, there's a lot of deep-rooted issues, and so I was very concerned about that. But I'd had some really good close connections with people in college, and they transferred to different schools, so I was kind of left feeling like I didn't really belong anywhere. I just kind of felt like a floater. I didn't feel like I had strong relationships with people. I just had like a bunch of acquaintances. So that's kind of what made me want to do it. And thankfully, I ended up in a very like small sorority. It's Theta Phi. It's very gay, which I really love. I was very surprised by that because I was really worried about that. And it's pretty diverse. So I was very excited about that. So having my sisters is really nice. Just having that support system. It's hard because I'm not actually there with them, you know, in person. So it's hard. And like, I do feel kind of left out sometimes, but I just tried my hardest to come to every event because we're doing everything virtually. Nothing's in person because we're trying to be as safe as possible. So I've tried my hardest to come to every like virtual event. So that's been really helpful, is kind of having that support system. Also being really in touch. Like I said, I'm really close with my family. So I actually went on like a little date with my mom earlier this week, and we went and had like Mexican food together, and we went and shopped at a store that was closing because they had really good sales. And then 2 days later, I took my dad out to New Orleans, and I took him to his favorite Italian spot, and I paid for it. And so that's really nice, like being in touch with your family. So that's really helped me, is being in touch with my friends, being in touch with my family. And like I said, I finally am getting to spend a lot of really good quality time with my girlfriend. And so sometimes we just go over to each other's houses and we just do our schoolwork together. So that's been really nice, is having someone that you can do your work with. So yeah, just staying in touch with people and also knowing when to reach out for help. I'm one of those people who has a really hard time admitting that they need help, like when it comes to mental health. So knowing when to reach out for help, knowing that other people right now are going through the same exact thing and the same feelings that you're going through. So that's my biggest piece of advice and what I've been doing to stay like mentally healthy. Doesn't always work, but that's what I try to do.
Thank you, Bailey.
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh wait, is somebody gonna go? I just saw her.
No.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay.
Christopher. This is such a great note to end on, and we have time for one more share. So Christopher, please.
Okay, so I was gonna say probably like the one most valuable advice I have for like maintaining my mental health and like taking so many like extracurriculars, and especially like engineering, very heavy in like homework, work, like having to do stuff outside of class. Something I found very valuable was like actually like using the reminder app, and like also using the, I think it's screen time. I think that's what it's called on iPhone. But just like being very like, because I didn't realize how much time I spent on social media. So like using the screen time and limiting the actual amount I can use, and being like very like, also using reminders to be like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, because like sometimes you have so much on your mind that you forget. I felt that was something very valuable. And also something else I found very valuable was probably also just like taking a 5-minute break and like 20, when doing 20 minutes of like anything, just taking like a 5-minute break and disconnecting from what I'm doing, maybe like watching a show, going outside. I found that was very helpful for my own mental health, especially like when sometimes I'm very isolated and I can't really do that much. But then at the same time, I don't like lose like kind of my sanity, because like I get to like not learn, but I get to like use other resources to kind of like plug myself out of the situation.
Did we lose Christopher?
Oh no, I just ended. No. I just ended right there. No, I just thought you were gonna say something. So
I think that my internet lagged there for a second, so I think I just missed the end of what you said. you were able to, you're good though, Christopher?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. What a great note to end on. I wish that we had more time. This is fantastic. And I feel grateful and I feel hopeful getting to be in the presence of you all, and really, really appreciate you spending the time with us to share about your experiences. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to be sending out a survey to everyone, participants and panelists. We would love your feedback on this session, and we would love ideas on future conversations. So if you have time to fill that out, we would really appreciate it. And if everyone could turn their microphones on, I would just love to end with a big round of applause for our panelists. And thank you again to everyone so much for coming tonight. So let's turn our microphones on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. This is Eliza. I just wanted to say that our next conversation is November 9th. And I think it's going to be it's unknown how we're all going to be feeling on November 9th. But we hope you'll join us, students, guests, everybody. These conversations happen monthly and they're always open to all. And so we're excited to keep talking. And thank you so much to all the students who joined us. You're brilliant. And have a really good night, everyone. Thanks for moderating.
Thank you.